There are wounds that don't bleed, but still stain everything. You wake up with it, carry it like breath, smile through it so well, even you forget it's there sometimes. But in the quiet moments, it comes back, like an echo that refuses to fade. Maybe it's not a memory anymore. Maybe it's just a shape you took to survive, a silence you learned to live inside. And now, you don't even know if you're healing or just getting better at pretending. There's a kind of pain that doesn't scream. It just whispers, "This is who you are now." It convinces you that letting go would be betrayal, that if you release it, you'd be empty, or worse, invisible. So you hold on, to the story, to the scar, to the identity built from what went wrong. But what if that's not strength? What if it's just habit, a well-worn mask that feels like skin? Because no one taught you how to stop being the person pain made you. They only taught you how to function, to appear, to keep going. But deep down, haven't you wondered if this ache you've claimed as yours was never meant to define you? What if pain was only meant to pass through, but somewhere along the way, you built a home around it, and now you're stuck calling that pain me? But here's the quiet truth. You are not your wounds. You are not your past. You are not the echo of a moment that broke you. You're the silence underneath all that. You're the awareness that sees the storm, but is not the storm. You're the stillness that survived, even when everything else fell apart. And maybe, just maybe, you've suffered enough. So I'll ask you this. What if this pain you carry isn't who you are, but who you were never allowed to stop being? You learned early that being yourself wasn't always safe, so you adjusted. You lowered your voice. You bit your tongue. You made yourself smaller in rooms that didn't deserve you, but needed you to fit into the shape of someone easier to understand. And that's how it begins. Not with loud betrayal, but with subtle abandonments. The quiet edits you make to be chosen. The silent roles you accept just to not be left behind. You didn't lie. You adapted. But with each adaptation, something true was left behind. And eventually, you forgot what the original version of you even looked like. Because survival, for so many of us, doesn't feel like a battlefield. It feels like a stage where you're clapped for being okay, even when you're not. Where you smile on cue, cry off script, and vanish when the lights go out. We call it being strong. We call it being functional. But often it's just a quiet form of self-abandonment. You become the peacemaker, the achiever, the one who never asks too much, the one who stays quiet, stays good, stays easy to love. And over time, those roles start feeling like truth. You wear them so well, you start to forget. They were costumes all along. A social mask, a mirrored self, an identity sculpted not from who you are, but from who the world told you to be. And inside that mask, a quiet ache grows, not just from the pain you carry, but from the self you've had to bury to carry it. It's not your fault. No one teaches us how to be whole, only how to be palatable. And so we trade authenticity for attachment, truth for approval, freedom for belonging. But there's a cost, and the cost is you. Every time you swallow your truth to keep the peace, you build another wall in your glass cage. You make the prison look prettier, but it's still a prison. And maybe that's the real suffering, not the pain itself, but the pretending. Pretending you're okay. Pretending your silence is strength. Pretending your identity is fixed. When in truth, it's a performance held together by fear. But what if you could stop pretending? What if healing didn't mean going back to who you were, but finally becoming who you were always meant to be before the pain taught you otherwise? That's the paradox most never speak of. The parts of you that feel real now, they were sculpted in response to pain. And as long as you stay loyal to them, you stay loyal to the pain. Loyalty to pain looks like over-explaining, looks like proving your worth, looks like keeping people close by, constantly abandoning yourself. And it looks like control, because when you weren't allowed to feel safe, you learned to control everything you could. Your tone, your timing, your image. But control is a slow suffocation. And the more you tighten your grip, the more disconnected you become from the truth underneath. So maybe the question isn't, how do I heal? Maybe the real question is, what am I still holding on to? That was never mine to begin with. Because the version of you that the world accepted, the mask, that version might have kept you safe, but it never made you free. And deep down, you know this. There's a soft voice inside, buried beneath the armor, the mask, the roles, that keeps asking, when do I get to just be? Not perform, not prove, not please, just be. And maybe that voice is quiet, but it's still alive. And maybe you're watching this because that voice, the one you've ignored for years, is finally getting loud enough to hear. So I'll ask you again, who taught you that healing meant pretending you're okay? Who told you that pain makes you real and peace makes you invisible? And more importantly, are you ready to remember who you are beneath the performance? Drop the mask for a moment. In the comments, write as if no one's watching, just you, finally telling the truth. What pain have you been holding on to that doesn't feel like you anymore? Let it out, not to be fixed, but to be seen. Some wounds don't scream, they shape. They shape how you walk into rooms, how you hesitate before speaking, how you love cautiously, because once, love didn't hold, it shattered. And so pain becomes not just something that happened, it becomes something you became. Not because you chose it, but because in the moment it struck, it was the only thing that made sense. The only thing that gave your suffering a name. Pain gives shape when everything else falls apart. It becomes a frame, a compass, a code of survival. I'll never trust again. I have to do everything alone. I'm too much. I'm not enough. These aren't just thoughts. They're blueprints, built not in joy, but in aftermath. And slowly, the map of your identity gets drawn by every moment you weren't met, weren't heard, weren't held. But here's what no one tells you. Pain is a teacher, but it's not meant to be your home. It's meant to reveal, not define. Like the fire that clears a forest, not to destroy, but to renew. Like the wave that breaks open the shore, not to punish, but to shape the land into something new. The Buddhist path doesn't ask you to erase pain. It invites you to witness it without becoming it, to feel without fusing. Because when we cling to pain, we don't just remember what happened. We recreate it again and again. We replay old roles. We chase the same dynamics. We confuse familiarity with truth. We bleed on people who didn't cut us. We walk into love with a shield in one hand and a script in the other, waiting for the betrayal we've already rehearsed. And deep down, it's not because you want to suffer, it's because suffering became a language. And part of you fears that without it, you'd be silent. But you're not your pain. You're the one who survived it. You're the awareness that witnessed it. You're the stillness underneath it. The self that remained even when everything else was lost. And maybe it's time to ask, what if this pain was never here to punish you, but to reveal something sacred? Your tenderness, your depth, your ability to break open, not break down. Because in that breaking, something ancient emerges. A grief that isn't just personal, but human. A longing for safety, for home, for self. And sometimes, the heaviest pain isn't what was done to you. It's what you had to do to yourself to survive it. The smile you faked, the truth you silenced, the boundaries you let dissolve just to feel wanted. But that version of you, the one who shaped themselves around loss, rejection, chaos, that version doesn't have to lead anymore. You don't have to keep building your identity around a storm that already passed. It's okay to be soft now. It's okay to grieve who you had to become. It's okay to lay down the armor that once protected you, but now just keeps you separate. Because healing isn't becoming someone new. It's remembering who you were before the world taught you to forget, before the pain rewrote your name. And maybe, just maybe, this pain that's shaped you in silence has done its job. It woke you up. It cracked you open. It brought you here. So the real question now is, are you still shaping your life around the pain? Or are you finally ready to shape it around your truth? Letting go isn't forgetting. It's remembering who you are without the weight. There's a version of you that exists beyond the ache, But you'll never meet them while clinging to the story of your suffering. Because pain doesn't just live in your memories, it lives in your grip. The way you hold on, to the betrayal, to the moment everything changed, to the identity you built in response to what broke you. And maybe part of you believes that if you let go, you're letting them win, letting yourself fall, letting go of something sacred. But what if letting go is sacred? Not erasing, not denying, just finally releasing the need to keep carrying what already crushed you. It's strange, isn't it? We carry our wounds like proof of what we endured, of what we survived. But survival isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of choice. You survived. Yes. Now, do you want to live? Because living, really living, means loosening your grip on old versions of yourself, on pain that no longer fits, on narratives that kept you safe but not whole. Buddhism doesn't ask you to become indifferent. It invites you to become free. Free from identification. Free from the illusion that suffering is your essence. Free from clinging to a past self that only knew how to protect, not how to bloom. Letting go is not cold. It's the warmest thing you'll ever do for yourself. It's the hand you place on your own shoulder, finally saying, you don't have to carry this anymore. Imagine walking barefoot into the present. No more rehearsals, no more defenses. Just now, just breath, just the raw, unfiltered truth of who you are without the need to be understood through your pain. That's the paradox. The more you try to be accepted, the less you recognize yourself. The more you let go of needing to be seen a certain way, the more your real self can be seen. When you let go of pain, you don't lose yourself. You meet yourself for the first time. Because clinging doesn't make you loyal. It makes you heavy. And healing isn't about collecting better armor. It's about learning how to walk unguarded. Not because you'll never be hurt again, but because you finally know you'll survive. You'll grieve. You'll feel. You'll be soft in a world that once told you softness was a liability. And that's power. That's the kind of power that doesn't dominate. It liberates. So let the rope fall. The rope that binds you to the identity of the hurt one. The rope that ties you to old expectations, old roles, old survival instincts. Because you're not just a survivor of what happened. You're a creator of what comes next. But you can't create while gripping the past. You can't fly while dragging what grounded you. You can't meet yourself while pretending to be who pain made you. So breathe and release. Let go of the need to explain. Let go of the need to fix what never was your fault. Let go of the self that was shaped around not being enough. And in that space, you'll find something astonishing. Not emptiness, but peace. Not numbness, but clarity. Not a loss of identity, but a return to one that was never broken to begin with. You are not your scars. You are not your trauma. You are the sky that held every storm and never stopped being the sky. Letting go isn't the end. It's the beginning of walking without weight. So walk, not away from your past, but toward your truth. Light, open, real. Because freedom was never about forgetting. It was always about remembering who you are without the armor. There comes a moment when the fight becomes heavier than the pain itself. When you've replayed the same story so many times that even the echoes begin to fade. Not because they've healed, but because they've exhausted every corner of your being. And that's when silence comes. Not as a punishment, but as a doorway. There's a stillness beyond the noise. A space where you're no longer trying to make sense of it all, no longer searching for meaning in every scar. You just stop. Not out of defeat, but out of surrender. Not the kind of surrender that says, I give up. The kind that whispers, I no longer need to carry what isn't mine. In Buddhism, we don't escape suffering by transcending it. We meet it fully, then release the illusion that we ever were it. We return to breath, to presence, to the moment before the name, before the role, before the pain became an identity. There is no grand breakthrough, no loud resolution, just the quiet permission to feel what you feel without becoming it. That's the healing. The subtle shift from why did this happen to me to this happened. and I'm still here. You don't need to win against your past. You don't need to prove you're over it. You don't even need to forgive before you're ready. You only need to sit, breathe, let the wave rise and fall without drowning in it. Healing isn't loud. It's not fireworks. It's not poetic closure. It's waking up and realizing you no longer need the pain to feel real. It's sitting with yourself, no armor, no script, and feeling the terrifying, beautiful truth that you're enough, even in the quiet, even in the mess, even in the moments when the voice in your head says otherwise, especially then. Because the truth is, you were never broken, just buried, under years of coping, under survival instincts mistaken for personality, under masks that felt safer than vulnerability. But now, you've seen it, you've felt it. You know that something inside you is ready to stop performing, to stop analyzing every wound, to stop rewriting a story that already ended. You're ready to begin living the one that starts here, where pain is no longer your compass, where silence is no longer feared, where love isn't a transaction, but a resting place. And in this silence, not the silence of repression, but the silence of return, you remember you are not your story. You are the space that holds it, the witness, the breath, the stillness. And if you can be still enough, for just long enough, you'll feel it, the soft pulse of aliveness, the warmth of simply being, without proving, without fixing, without holding anything at all. So let this be your moment, not to rise, not to shine, not to conquer, but simply to stop fighting yourself, to rest in the reality that healing isn't something you chase, it's something you allow. And maybe, just maybe, you don't need another answer right now. Maybe what you need is to trust the quiet truth that's been waiting beneath it all. You are already whole. And if that still feels hard to believe, then I'll leave you with this. What if everything you've been searching for is what finally begins when you stop trying to be anyone but who you already are?